I have made a lot of clothes over the years, but in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you the 5 makes that I'm genuinely the most proud of, and I'm also going to be sharing with you whether or not they get worn. So if you're new here, hi, I'm Sally and this is my channel Made by Sally, where I talk all about sewing and making clothes and sometimes a little bit of knitting and crochet as well. I thought it'd be really fun to make this video today, just looking back at the things that I look at and feel really proud of. You know, when you just have those makes where you could just not only wear them but just actually look at them on the hanger because you feel like you've done your best work. Sometimes I think it can be natural for us as crafters to think quite negatively of our own work, to maybe pick out all the flaws and all the things that we could have done better. But I also think it's really important sometimes to just take a step back and look at what you've made and actually feel really proud of it. So I want to share these makes with you today to inspire you to take a look at your own handmade garments and just feel really proud of what you've sewn. So the first garment I want to talk about is this Simplicity coat. This is definitely one of my most proudest makes. I'm not quite sure how to say that. This is definitely one of my most proud makes, and it's also one of the biggest things I've ever sewn as well, so it wasn't without its challenges along the way. So this is the sewing pattern I used to sew that coat. It's Simplicity 8796. It's a simple overcoat style coat. It's got that sort of dressing gown style, so there are no buttons or fastenings on the actual body of the coat. The coat just wraps around and it ties up with a belt. There are a few different versions that you can actually sew on this pattern. I went for version D at the bottom. I'll try and put the line drawings in as well. So this is the one without the buttons or fastenings and just the belt to close, and you can also attach some patch pockets if you wanted to on the front. I actually left those off in my version. The fabric that I've used for this coat is actually a fabric that I picked up from the Knitting and Stitching show from a fabric company called Lily Fabrics. I really wanted the sort of traditional style camel or beige overcoat that's been very big around on the high street and everywhere over the last couple of winter seasons. So I was looking for this colour. I think they also had a khaki and maybe even like a black or a navy as well. And then for the lining, I've actually used an Atelier Brunette viscose. So the outer fabric for this coat was actually quite reasonably priced. I didn't pay a lot for it, so I decided to sort of splash out a little bit more on the lining, and it's just so nice as a lining because it's really light. So this coat actually turned out exactly as I was hoping in my head. I really wanted an oversized overcoat style coat that I could wear as a kind of smarter coat, but also more casually over leggings and hoodies and trainers and things as per the trends that are around at the moment. It is extremely warm and heavy, I will say. It's actually making my arm ache holding it a little bit. So it's really great if you are sort of going out in an evening, or if you're traveling far, if you're walking far and you know the weather's going to be okay and you won't need a hood, but you just want to be a little bit smarter. So in terms of the sewing process for this coat, it actually did come together quite nicely. I remember really enjoying the whole sewing process of this coat. The fabric was lovely to work with. It's got a kind of knitted back to it, so I felt like it cut really nicely and I could put the pieces together really nicely, and there wasn't too much fraying or fluff everywhere or anything like that. I'm not quite sure of the actual composition of this fabric, but it was a really nice one to work with. I think the biggest difficulty I had with this coat was just that it was so big and heavy. So as I was working with it, it was really difficult to kind of get under the sewing machine and to press properly. It was all hanging over the ironing board. And I remember when I came to putting in the collar and the sort of lapel fronts that everything just felt so thick and bulky, and I was really worried about whether or not it would actually go under the machine, but it did, and I'm quite happy with the finish of it. But yeah, that was the main difficulty, just the weight of it, I think, and managing all the different fabrics. So I didn't include the patch pockets on the front of this. What I did instead was just include the inseam pockets at the side. So does it get worn? Yes, it does get worn, but actually not all that much. And the reason for that really is that I don't lead a very smart lifestyle. I'm often out and about in all kinds of weathers, so I tend to reach more so for my waterproof coats and my coats with hoods, but I love reaching for this coat if we're ever going anywhere a little bit more fancy. So I've worn it on occasions when we've been up to London. I wore this over a dress and it just felt so lovely and smart, and it was super warm as well. And I've also worn worn it more casually over my wide leg trousers and a sweater and Ugg boots and things. And I love the contrast between the more casual outfit and the smarter style of this coat. So I think this is one that I probably need to experiment more with and probably be a little bit less lazy and try and style it up a little bit more according to my day-to-day life rather than just when I feel like I'm going somewhere smart. My next most proud make is my jeans. So these are the Dawn jeans by Megan Nielsen, and I will just talk you through the pattern in a few minutes. But these are a really proud make for me because I always said when I started out sewing that I would never ever want to make a pair of jeans, and part of that for me was just because I actually really like shop bought jeans. But I have to say there was a side of me that just didn't really want to go through the hassle of the fitting and all of the bits and pieces that come with jean sewing, like the top stitching and the pockets and all of that kind of thing. But as my sewing progressed, I felt as though maybe I was more up for the challenge. And when I considered sewing a pair of jeans, I was thinking to myself, well, even if I don't sort of wear them, I would really love to have a go at sort of following through the process of sewing jeans. I'd love to know how jeans are constructed, and I'd love to have a go at all of the bits and pieces, the pockets, the coin pockets, the top stitching. Wanted to learn how to make a zip fly as well, and sewing a pair of jeans was just the ideal way to do those things. So I kind of went into making my first pair of jeans with a pinch of salt, I guess. I wasn't too bothered if they turned out perfectly. I just wanted to have a go. So the sewing pattern I used for my first attempt at making jeans was the Dawn jeans pattern by Megan Nielsen. I did struggle actually to find a sewing pattern for jeans that I really liked until I came across this one, and I love the fact that there are so many different styles included in this pattern. So you can make a straight leg version of these jeans, you can make a wide leg version, you can make a pair of shorts, and I also love the fact that you could sew either crop length or long length. There are also different versions of the fly that you can sew, so it gives the option for a button fly or a standard sort of zipper fly. The fabric I've used for these is actually a denim again that I picked up from the Knitting and Stitching show, but I'd had it in my stash for absolutely years. So again, part of my thinking was that I would just use this fabric and I hadn't wasted anything, and it was a really good opportunity to kind of give these jeans a go. So I sewed these up on a day when I think both children were out. I think it was the Easter holidays. I had a whole day to myself and I thought, I'm just going to start these jeans and see how I get on. And at the time I was feeling in a little bit of a kind of anxious, strange kind of place. I wasn't really feeling myself. I wasn't feeling great. I really had to force myself actually, but I thought I'm just going to cut the jeans out so that they're ready. And then when I feel like sewing, I can just get on with them. But actually that day I ended up cutting out the jeans, starting to sew the jeans and working well into the night because I just could not stop working on these. I think I got to the point actually where the only thing I had left to make the next day was the buttonhole on the waistband. I thoroughly enjoyed the whole process. It was so mindful and I loved the kind of sewing that it was. It's a different kind of sewing, I think, to when you're making something floaty like a dress or a blouse, which is what I am probably more used to sewing, or I was at that time anyway. It was a much more kind of structured, take your time kind of sewing process. It was very slow because you would sew a seam and then you'd maybe need to top stitch or you need to press a bit more. It's a slow, mindful make, and for me at that time, feeling a little bit anxious and not myself, it was just such a good thing to do for my mental health. It really made me slow down and I was focused and I was in that kind of flow state of crafting, and it really helped me at that time with how I was feeling. So yeah, I'm thankful to these jeans for that. But also I think I'm just so pleased with how they turned out. Because I was enjoying the process so much, I really put my best into this and I made sure that I top stitched as neatly as I possibly could. This probably isn't the best example of my top stitching. I kind of wish I'd used a contrast thread because I actually think I've made a really good job of this top stitching. It's always the way, isn't it, when you use a thread that's going to be hidden, you do your best work. I was so lucky with the fit of these as well. They actually fit me straight out of the pack. So I did have a bit of sizing to do in terms of choosing the size that I wanted to sew. I think I made a size 4 with these, and the only thing I needed to do was just take in the waist slightly. They fit me really well over the hips, and that worked out really well. So yeah, that was very, very lucky, I have to say. I didn't have too much trouble with the fitting, which I know can be a problem with sewing jeans. So do these get worn? Well, yes, they do get worn. I've got a lot of wear out of these, and I've since made myself a pair of cream ones as well, and they are also getting a little bit more wear than they did when I first made them last year. I'm making sure that I bring them out even in the autumn time, and I'm wearing those with sweaters and ballet flats and things like that while it's not too cold. But I think they're more of a transitional kind of jean, so spring, maybe summer, it's a little bit chillier, and early autumn time. I think I might be putting these away for winter because I'm not quite sure how I would style them because they are that little bit shorter, but I could maybe get some chunky boots to wear underneath them. I don't know, I'll play around with that. I'm just going to break quickly here to give a mention to today's video sponsor, which is Serious Readers. If you're a regular here, you'll already know how much I love my HD light from Serious Readers, which I use all the time in my crafting life. Serious Readers lights come fitted with something called daylight wavelength technology, which replicates the daylight spectrum as close as is possible, making it feel as though you're working away in daylight, even though it's actually dark outside. I find my light so helpful now that the nights are drawing in, and for us it's getting dark at around 4:30 p.m. now, so it doesn't feel as though there is a lot of daylight hours in the day. Each HD light also comes with a dimmer switch so that you can up or down the brightness as needed, and there's also a beam width function too, which allows you to focus the light exactly where you need it. The lights also have a flexible neck and a swivel head to help you get just the right focus and aim on whatever you're working on. I use my light mostly in our living room so that I can be knitting or sewing away while we watch TV or relax in the evening, and I'm not having to disturb the rest of the family with the big light on. I also pop this light on in the morning time too when I come down in the morning to do my reading and it's still dark outside. My light has a lightweight base, so it's portable, and I find it a great help to move it into the dining room if I'm ever sewing in the evening. It's great for threading needles and any fiddly close-up work that I'm doing. Serious Readers lights come highly recommended by optometrists, so if you are someone who struggles with poor eyesight but you still love to do your close-up crafting work into the evenings, you might want to have a look at their large range of products. Check out the reviews and see if there's something suitable for you. I'll leave the link to the Serious Readers website in the video description below, and by entering my code Sally at checkout you can save £150, including on the new HD Pro and HD Essential ranges. Thank you so much to Serious Readers for sponsoring this part of the video. My third most proud make is this blazer. This is the Avid seamstress, the blazer pattern. I've not ever really had much of a need for a blazer in my life. I don't work in an office or anything like that these days, so it was never really something at first that I thought I would probably bother to sew. But again, around last year and probably more into this season as well, blazers have been styled a little bit more casually. So they're being worn with leggings and trainers and over jeans and things. And I began to think that maybe a blazer was something that I could style for my more casual wardrobe and lifestyle. So in terms of looking for the right pattern for this, I was looking for something quite relaxed and quite casual, and it was a toss-up between this pattern and the Heather blazer by Friday Pattern Company. So both of those blazer styles are a little bit less tailored than maybe some of the others that are out there, and I really was taken by the pattern images for both of those. So this is the pattern that I eventually settled on. It is the Avid seamstress, the blazer pattern, and I loved the pattern image actually. I loved how it was being styled on the front of this pattern. So you can see that the sleeves are rolled up, it doesn't have any button fastenings or anything like that, and it's just worn really casually over a t-shirt. And really it was just the kind of style that I was going for. So this blazer has shoulder darts, front pockets, panelled sleeves, and it's fully lined as well. So it did test my sewing skills rather, and there were a few things to learn along the way while I was sewing this pattern. The fabric that I've used for this one is a wool blend polyester from Minerva. So again, I was kind of erring on the side of caution with the fabric that I used, and I did pick a sort of a cheaper blend fabric because this was my first go. The lining is an anti-static lining. It's just one of Minerva's core range anti-static linings, and it worked really nicely for this. So yeah, really happy with that lining as well. So this wool blend, it does have a subtle sort of red stripe through it as well, which I think is really nice. In terms of the sewing process, similar to my jeans, I just thoroughly enjoyed the whole sewing process. I think because the process was new to me and there were quite a few new techniques to me in this as well, I was just so focused on what I was doing the whole time. And I think when I get into a sewing make like that, that's when I'm sort of most focused and when I most enjoy my sewing. So it's really good sometimes to challenge yourself, I think, and take yourself out of your comfort zone and just sort of be in the process and in that kind of flow state. So I would say this is a great blazer pattern if, like me, this is your first ever blazer or the first tailored garment that you've ever really sewn. It's nice, and I don't want to say easy because it's not easy, but it's probably easier than maybe some of the other more tailored versions of a blazer because it doesn't have sleeve plackets or anything. The sleeves are just straight. They are sewn in various different parts. You don't have that sort of button-up placket to contend with that you might in more tailored versions. The pockets are just sort of nicely inserted into this panelled hem. So does this one get worn? I think in the same way as my Smarter coat, yes, this does get worn when there is occasion to wear it. So I think the way that this has turned out, it has turned out to be quite a fitted blazer. So I can only really wear something quite tightly fitted underneath. So I can't really wear this in the casual way that I was maybe thinking I might over a hoodie or a sweatshirt with leggings and trainers. It's definitely one that is more on the smarter side. I need to dress it up a little bit more, and therefore it only really gets worn when I have call to wear it. But I have again worn this a few times when I've been to, again, I went up to London for something for work and I wore this over an Agnes t-shirt and a nice pair of skinny tailored black trousers. And I really loved that outfit and I loved wearing this. It was so comfortable to wear. I didn't feel restricted in any way. It just felt like it smartened up my whole outfit really when I was wearing something reasonably casual and easy underneath. So I think, yeah, again, it's going to be a really useful piece to have in my wardrobe, and I know it will get pulled out when there is occasion for it because I really do love it. But I think in terms of sort of day-to-day styling and wear, it probably doesn't get worn as much as I was maybe hoping it would when I was planning to sew a casual blazer. So yeah, I really would like to maybe either make another one of these in a larger size or maybe have a go at the heather blazer as a kind of casual blazer that I can wear more day-to-day, just when I'm running errands and going out and about and things like that. Yeah, love that one, and I'm so proud of it because I actually gave it a go and I didn't shy away from the process, and it taught me so much. Make number 4 is my Jack Trench by Ready to Sew. I've always loved the look of a trench coat, and when I saw the Jack Trench come out by Ready to Sew, I thought it would maybe be perfect for me and my more casual lifestyle because it does have quite a lot of the features of a traditional trench coat, but it's on a much more casual level. So I don't have the pattern to hold up for you here because I did buy it as a PDF, but I will pop in the images here so you can see all of the details. So this trench coat has a collar and lapels, and the back collar is actually sewn with a drawstring so that you can draw it up around the back. It has a big bold pleat in the back and also a storm flap as well. There are also some really large pockets in this, and I love the fact that it was all pulled in at the waist with a drawstring with these big sort of waterfall type lapels. So yeah, really love this pattern. I think it's got some lovely details to it, and yeah, I was really taken by the whole casual take on this trench coat. In terms of the sewing process for this, I would say that this was a challenge. It was probably one of my most challenging ever sews, and I remember having to stop and scratch my head quite a few times throughout the whole process. So the main reason I am proud of this coat is that I persevered and got it done, and I think I've got it done according to the pattern specifications. So yeah, I'm really proud of myself for that. I remember having real trouble as well trying to attach the lining and getting the lining into the sleeves. And I think it was probably one of the first times that I'd ever sewn a sleeve lining in that way. So yeah, I really had to sort of think about that whole process and how you actually attach the lining into a sleeve so that there are no visible joins and seams. And I was so happy once it was all done. The fabric I used for this make, I was obviously feeling quite confident when I did buy the fabric for this jacket because I used 2 very expensive fabrics for this make, even though I'd never made this before and I wasn't quite sure how it would turn out. So the outer fabric is a Tencel twill fabric, which I got from Fabric Godmother. It's such a lovely fabric. It's really soft and silky and it drapes nicely. It wasn't the easiest to sew with, I have to say. It did fray, and because of how drapey it was quite difficult sometimes to get the structure that I think maybe this jacket did need. The lining as well, I splurged on. This is another Atelier Brunette viscose fabric. I decided to go for a darker inside, so again a more pricey fabric. I don't really know what I was thinking. It's not really like me to go all out with my expensive fabrics the first time I make something. I think my thinking with this was that I would make one in this beige colour and then hopefully come back and make another one in a khaki colour similar to the pattern images. But because of the trouble that I had with sewing this jacket up, I sort of put this to one side for a while, even though I was really proud of it. But I think because of the trouble that I had sewing this first version up, I think once I was done with it and I was proud of it, I just kind of put the pattern away and wanted to forget about it for a while. So you never know, it might be one that I revisit again in the future. So you can see at the back that we've got this sort of drawstring gathered collar, the storm flap, the pleat in the back, and then the drawstring casing that just pulls it all in around the front. So does this one get worn? Again, yes, it does get worn, but I think not quite in the way again that I had intended. I think I wanted to sew this up as a kind of trendy sort of smart dog walking style coat that I would pop on to walk the dog, and feel a little bit more smart about myself than perhaps when I just pull on my waterproof coat that I normally always wear. But in fact it hasn't really worked out as that kind of coat because of the kind of fabric that I use. So I tend to obviously need a waterproof coat when I'm going out and about walking. This fabric is in no way waterproof. If I got rained on it, I would be soaked through in seconds, I think. And of course it doesn't have a hood either. So if you are caught out in a rain shower, you're not going to be very protected. So my final most proud make is actually this one. It's the Grainline Archer shirt. I am sometimes guilty, I will say, of taking the easy option when it comes to more tailored items. So with a pair of trousers, for example, I'd probably go for a nice comfy elasticated waist without any fitting, so that I can kind of get the look of a tailored pair of trousers, but I haven't got all the work to do. And I think in the past I've also done that where I've made a more casual shirt, such as the Logan Shacket. But this year I really wanted to challenge myself to make a proper shirt, a proper tailored shirt. So I looked around at a few different patterns and I'd heard really good things about the Grainline Archer, so I decided to give that one a go. So again, with this one I actually have it printed out as a PDF, so I'll pop in the images here, but you can see that there are loads of the traditional details that you would find in a tailored shirt. I've got the collar on a stand, the little patch pockets, there's a separate button band that you need to attach down one side. It also has a yoke at the back with a box pleat, and then this yoke is finished with the burrito method, so it's all nice and neatly enclosed inside. And then with the sleeves as well, we've got an actual placket with binding and a buttonhole and sleeve pleats and all those kind of things. So again, as I've mentioned with all of my other more difficult sews, I thoroughly enjoyed the process of making this blouse. Sometimes I'm really in the mood for a more challenging sew, something that I really need to concentrate on, that I need to take my time on, and I can really sort of make sure that I'm doing my best work. And that was definitely the case for this blouse. So the fabric I've used for this one is, I think this is a viscose Dobby fabric. I picked this up from the Fabric Boutique when I was in the area. It's so lovely because it does have a little bit more structure than some viscoses. I'm not always one for wearing stiff cotton in shirts and blouses. I can feel a bit restricted. So I always like to have a little bit of drape when I'm wearing something like this. And this fabric fit the bill perfectly, really, because it's drapey, but it was also easy to work with as well. So yeah, I absolutely loved the process of this, and I love the style of the Archer shirt. It has this sort of dropped shoulder here, so you've got the, I don't know if this is the case with all shirts, but the shoulder seam kind of comes a little bit forward, so you've got a bit of top stitching to do here as well, and then there's some really nice top stitching along the back yoke as well. And the sleeve cuffs have the sort of traditional like angled cuff part as well, so that was really nice to do. I do have fabric all ready to make myself another version of this that I can wear throughout the autumn as a layering piece, so I'm really looking forward to revisiting this pattern and giving it a go again. I'd highly recommend this pattern if, like me, you are looking to sew your first tailored shirt. I think Grainline patterns are always really good. They have great instructions, and I always find that their pattern pieces come together really nicely as well. So yeah, I'm so proud again that I actually pushed myself out of my comfort zone a little bit, stepped away from my more casual, easy to sew shirts and had a go at making a proper shirt. I'm going to call it a proper shirt. So does this one get worn? Yes, it definitely does. I've worn this quite a few times just on its own with jeans, and I've also worn it underneath jumpers as well as we've gone into the autumn, and I really do love it. I would also wear it as well over vests and things in the summertime. You can knot it at the waist, you can wear it open, you can wear it underneath things again. It's a really kind of versatile wardrobe staple. Because I've sewn this in a viscose dobby, it doesn't obviously go with absolutely everything in my wardrobe, and that's why I would really like a cream version as well, so that it's more easy to pair with other things in my wardrobe. But yeah, I only finished making this at the beginning of this year, I think, probably around Easter time, so it hasn't been in my wardrobe for that long, but while I've had it, I've definitely got a few good wears out of this one, so pleased to have that in my wardrobe too. So that brings me to the end of this video, sharing my 5 most proud sewing makes. I'd love to know in the comments what your most proud sewing make is as well, and do let me know if you're planning to sew anything that's going to challenge you in the upcoming months. If you have enjoyed this video, please do give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. You can also follow me over on Instagram at Made by Sally Gauntlet, and I also have a Patreon as well where I share more behind the scenes photos and tips and tricks. I'll leave the link for that down below, and you can pop over and check it out if you want to. Thanks so much for joining me for another video today. Take care everyone, have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.